Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Welcome to Successful Dropout. This podcast is for the outliers, the innovators, the rebels, those that dare to dream and act on their dreams. I'm your host, Kylan Ginger. Join me as we find out what it takes to drop out, grind, and succeed. Hey, just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about Audible.com, an app I use on almost a daily basis because it's an incredibly affordable and convenient way to learn and read on the go. You'll love it for, I'm sure, all the same reasons you love listening to podcasts. If you are new to Audible, go to successfuldropout.com/book to claim your first audiobook free when you sign up. After that, it's only $15 a month and you can cancel at any time. That $15 gets you one book credit and you can use that to download any audiobook you want for that month, regardless of price. So it's very cost effective. If you decide you don't like the book, you can simply exchange it for another book free of charge. So again, if you are new to audible.com, go to successfuldropout.com/book to get your free audiobook through this podcast. You can also see my personal library and reading stats there because I posted some screenshots. Again, that is successfuldropout.com/book. What is up, Successful Dropouts? Get stoked because today on the show we have Dallas Swain. Dallas dropped out of high school at the age of 17 and had to pull himself up by the bootstraps to live, even running miles between jobs. Throughout it all, he's remained determined, knowing the only thing that could hold him back was himself. He now works full-time in North Dakota as a maintenance contractor and has worked his way up through the skilled labor force without a high school degree. At 23, his future looks bright with big plans as he lays the groundwork for his new business. So Dallas, that's the intro I have for you, man. But tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Yes, sir. Basically, you know, when you drill, basically you drill your hole, your oil comes up. You build a battery, and everything, your batteries, your tanks, all your lines underground, your oil lines, your saltwater lines, and they go to a treater which separates your oil, water, gas, and will ship it in these tanks. Basically, it's like a janitorial kind of thing. Once everything's built, I go in there and fix it. If you have a line leak, I'm cutting it, threading it, patching it, doing whatever I can. And then now what I'm doing more detailed is emission testing. With all these new regulations that, you know, Obama put in place and the EPA, we used to just flare. Any excess of gas you can't sell to a compressor station, which is like natural gas, which comes in your house. That's what you sell. So after these lines can only take so much because there's thousands and thousands of wells out here. Each compressor station can only take so many.
You're talking about oil, correct?
Well, this is gas. This is oil and gas industry. So, I mean, this is just gas, natural gas. So each line can only take about 90 pounds of pressure to a specific company. Say Hess, for example, which Amada Hess is one of the biggest natural gas contributors in the world now. And so each line can only take 90 pounds of pressure. So any excess of 90 pounds being sold to them is flared out to a flare line. So that's just burned off. Now you can only flare so much. So that gas has to go somewhere. So you can either hold it in your tanks, which is not a great thing, but you want to sell it. You want to sell everything you can to make as much money. So to hold that pressure in, you have hatch covers, just like basically opening the top to a can or anything, you know. Right. So you want to keep enough pressure in there, and if you have excess of pressure over I don't know, around 8 ounces, depending on what your hatch covers are designed for. It'll send it to another flare, and you can flare that off, because each flare has its own regulations on how much you can burn off.
So when you say a flare, are you literally talking about like a flame?
I'm literally, yes. Just
so you're burning excess gas.
Yes, I mean, looking out my window now, I can see a flare probably 30 feet in the air.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that sounds awesome.
It kind of is, especially when you hear them roaring right after they drill. It's insane, especially flowback. After they frack, they have to have special like 10-inch pipes come through on flowback, and these flares are hundreds of feet in the air. Like Whiting, when was this? This was probably last year. They were selling an insane, like millions of MCF. That's how their gas is measured, MCF. And and they were selling millions of gas, and it was, I think, the most in North Dakota at one time. It was pretty crazy.
Man, okay, so you're talking in very technical terms and stuff right now, but no, which is fine, and I understand a decent amount of it because I've had friends that have worked in North Dakota, and but explain for our audience, explain the whole process of I guess drilling for natural gas like you would to like a 5-year-old.
Okay, basically, if you're doggy paddling through a beach, you're digging to China, basically. Okay. So you want to dig as deep as you can to say you find water. You find, water that's coming from the beach. Okay. There's that well. You have water running into your hole. So right there, you can pull that fluid up with a pump, or you can pull it up with a ladle that you'll put in your bucket and then go dump on, another dry thing of sand and make another sandcastle. So,
Gotcha.
you're drilling, you're just basically digging to China until you find fluid.
So you're just digging a giant hole in the ground until this natural gas starts to fill up the hole, and then you're sucking that out, basically.
Kinda. I mean, it's a lot way more technical than actually. Now they used to only drill straight down, and from what I've read in history, their logic was, all right, well, we tapped oil, and they're, oh man, what was it, 18 something?
Yeah.
So their basis was the lower we can get, the more oil we're going to be able to get. Oh, they were definitely wrong. It just depends on your formations on the ground, and the formations of the ground are different sediments and different how old they are. Each formation is, it has a different age of what's in there. So, we have a river formation. It's called the Red River Formation. It's 12,100 feet, give or take a couple feet, and that is very, very toxic gas and very nasty oil. Like, it's the H2S, the hydrogen sulfide, will literally kill you in a matter of seconds. One breath, you die.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And now, if you've heard, or the audience have heard, the Bakken Formation is one of the biggest formations besides the one they just found in Texas a couple months ago, and that's clean gas. Like it's a lot of it's, there's a little nitrogen. You can breathe it. You might get lightheaded, but you're not gonna die at all.
Right.
But so this. You have Red River, you have some Madison wells that are like 11,000. Each well has its own depth, like some of the ones I'm staring at, most likely they're Bakken, but on a pad you can have from one pumping unit that's going into the ground to the most I've seen is 15 on a pad, which is pretty insane now. And they used to drill straight down. Now they drill horizontally. So say a Bakken well is 10,000 feet. Now they're drilling horizontally about another 5,000 to 7,000 feet. It's pretty astonishing how technology has advanced in like the last 10 years.
Yeah, no kidding, man. So Dallas, we were talking before we started the interview here, and I was just telling you how it was really neat to get you on the show, because the majority of successful dropouts we do get on the show are, they're developing apps, they're doing the entrepreneur thing from day one, they're working online. With you, it's really interesting just to get a look into the skilled labor force, and basically, you were a dropout and went right into, this blue collar work, and we were talking that I relate to that, a lot more, just because one of my first jobs after dropping out was working as a grunt in a construction company, is kind of where I cut my teeth, and my very first business was a construction and painting business, and understanding, I have a lot of respect for skilled labor and for the trades, and it's a very learning a trade is great. I would suggest it for anybody, because it's something you can always fall back on. It is dollars dollars for hours at the end of the day, but they're great skills to learn. And so I'd love you to just tell us your story, kind of from dropping out of high school on, and how you got to North Dakota. But what's the story there? What kind of led to you dropping out of high school?
Well, I mean, basically, my dad was a part of the military. He was in the Marines for years, basically my entire family except me. And so he was very, very stern, and he still lives that Marine attitude to this day. God, country, Corps, he screams it all the time. But his way with me and my brother Tyler were sports. He didn't get to play too much because they moved. So he instilled that on us very, very young. So, nothing against Tyler. I love him to death. That's my brother. He's very good. He's one of the smartest people in the world, but he wasn't that, he's coordinated, but he couldn't catch on to sports as fast as I could. Like I am a natural athlete. Give me a ping pong paddle and I will beat Forrest Gump, guaranteed, so, in a couple hours I got to practice first, but
right.
So, that hard work was basically always instilled in me, well, Dallas, you need to work out, run around the house 20 times. So we played sports our entire life. My dad was my coach, and I was always held at a way higher standard than everyone else. So that sense of losing was not, I couldn't do it. I'm still a sore loser. But we got to around high school, and we had the whole family deal, parents, and kind of took a fall. We moved, and how did it go? I was playing baseball. Baseball was my number one go-to sport. I played for 14 years. And in 10th grade, I was basically, that was the only way I was going to go to college. That was the only way I was going to make it. And I put all my eggs into that basket, like a lot of kids do this day and age. And if I could tell them differently, I'd tell them not to. The chances are very, very, very slim. But, so that basket totally blew up once I slid into third base and blew my knee out. And so college was done. So I took it the wrong way. Long story short, I went into this deep depression, hated everyone, started hanging out with the wrong kids and just got into the wrong lifestyle. And then my dad moved, and because he didn't want anything to do with it, left my bags on the doorstep. I came home one day and I had a bag of clothes on the doorstep, and he was all moved out to his new girlfriend's house. And It was basically, Dallas, put up or shut up, go do your thing, and wow. So I was dropped out at that point. I got calls from the teacher. They picked me up one day, one of my favorite teachers, Bolthouse. They brought me to the school basically against my will, and sat me in a room with everyone and was telling me all this, you're so good and all this stuff. And I don't know what it was. At that age, we were all rebellious, correct? Like, we don't want to hear what anyone wants to. Yeah, we don't want to hear what anyone has to say. We're 16, 17 years old. We're right. We know where we're going in this world. Well, I was wrong. So I blew that off. I blew everyone off. There was a year period where I was just going to, hardcore shows, metal shows, and just creating as much havoc as I can, egging cars, like just to make myself feel better, which is so stupid looking at it now. But, and I can't, looking back at it now, I cannot believe how lucky I got. Like, I don't know how I'm where I'm at now. I don't know where it changed, where I got on track. I really have no idea. But it just happened. After I dropped out, it was about a year and a half. I was 17, just about to turn 18. And I played tennis freshman year with this girl, Katie Ritz. And she was like, oh, do you want to work at a little grocery store? And I was like, sure. And I went there and I talked to the lady and they're like, yeah, just fill out this application. And the only reason I knew that you have to be 18 to sell alcohol in Michigan. And I knew that, but I didn't know they had alcohol until I walked in there. And then, so I lied on my application saying I was 18. I was only a month before that, but I still lied, definitely lied. Yeah. And so I got that job, and then I was still friends with these guys, and they're still my friends, but they weren't, the ideal people you want to be around sometimes, we got an apartment, and that didn't go well at all. There was 20 people over at the house every night, trashy, and it just wasn't good. We were getting into fights with our neighbors and literally kicking in our door, and it was stupid. But so it went from a grocery store to Bob Evans restaurant. Have you ever been to Bob Evans?
I haven't, no.
Well, you need to go to Michigan, go to Bob Evans.
Okay.
They cook some mean pancakes.
Awesome.
So between E&A, Bob Evans, and my apartment was probably about a 15-mile round trip. I used to run that every day, every time I worked, every day.
Wow.
And if I didn't, I was calling people for rides and paying them to give me rides. I had no vehicle, and I was getting to work every day. And I worked 6.5 months straight every day, which doesn't sound like much because it's a grocery store and a restaurant. But if you ever been cooking in a restaurant during a lunch rush, you understand how annoying it is.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's a little thing where, money drove me at the time, because I needed it. I needed to survive. Literally pulled myself up by the bootstraps and ran, tightened them up and ran. Yeah. And that's where I think my life got on track. And I stopped wanting to be a part of this child game, I'm all right. I'm kind of smart. I think I can do this, and I started gaining confidence in myself, and I quit E&A, the grocery store, and I started working at a fuel injector place. They dipped fuel injectors in this paint, and it would solidify, and you just send them and check them, and they'd come on this line, and you have to do certain things to them, run air through it 20 pounds, and then paint them if there's some, a little bit of dust or a mark on them, and you put them in the box and you ship them. And that was one of the easiest, most repetitive jobs I've ever had in my life. And 12 hours a day, and it had a cool schedule, 4 days on, 3 days off, and then 3 days on, 4 days off. But I was the guy that they called every day. It was a temp job. So every temp job nowadays, no one ever shows up. No one gives a crap. And they were calling me every day, Dallas, come work. All right. And it was basically because I love money, and I still love money. People fight with me about greed all the time. Greed is so bad. I'm like, no, I don't find greed bad at all.
So then how, going from, working there with fuel injectors and stuff, how'd you find yourself in North Dakota?
Oh man, I was still 18. I'm 23 now. I was only there for 5 months, and then my best friend Kyle Chase, his dad runs a foundry, a steel foundry, and they were working a lot, and they asked me to go, and I said, all right, let's take the chance. And I went and worked for, what was it, $10 an hour, I think, at a steel foundry. Literally, if you walk in those doors, it's literally hell. And just imagine a volcano running over. Have you ever seen those videos? Like you watch those old Bill Nye videos, a volcano just rolling over, and he's in that magma suit, pure aluminized suit. That's what we wore to pour steel, to pour molten steel.
Wow.
And I moved from shakeout, which is after they're poured, the molten steel's poured into these molds to create the casting. You put them in a tub, and then they're sent off wherever to grind them and torch them. And then I poured, which is you have a 1,000-pound ladle that's filled with steel, depending, different chemistries of the steel, and you pour it into these specific molds, all day. At one time, I took a picture of it. At one time you can turn on a thermometer, which is the steel has to be a certain temperature depending on the customer's specification. So or a pyrometer. If you just turn on your switch and turn it on, it'll give you a reading of the air temperature. It was 145 degrees in there in summer. And
oh my gosh.
At 140 degrees, your body can't even sweat fast enough to keep up. So, and
you're in a suit though, right? Or
yes.
Something?
Well, yeah, I'm in an aluminized suit that makes it hotter because all it does is it's hard to explain.
Deflects the heat off of you from the exterior, right?
Kind of, yeah, on the exterior. But you're not in this enclosed astronaut suit. So it comes up into you and makes you sweat regardless.
Right.
Thinking about it now, I'm so glad I'm out of there. Like,
what's the you mentioned him earlier, the guy from Dirty Jobs? What's his name?
Mike Rowe. Mike
Rowe. He seems like he'd be your hero, man.
Oh, he is my hero. He is my hero. He definitely, when he went in front of Congress a couple years ago, it should have been, I think it was during Dirty Jobs, and he explained the trades of how great trades are for kids nowadays and how it's pushed away. No, you need a liberal arts degree. No, you need to go learn about this stupid crap. Like, to anyone who likes it, I grant you, thank you, but if you don't know how to change your own oil on your car, there's a problem.
Yeah.
I think that lacks a lot of things, like if you, from you being in that construction and you started your own painting business, you understand just how it feels to get to come home and wash your hands and look in that sink and see how dirty your sink is. And, there's a meme that's been going around with a man's hands that says, dirty hands means clean money. I believe it in the premise of it for sure. There's nothing greater. There's no better satisfaction than coming home and being sore, for me at least. Like, just because I know I did something, looking at something and being like, I built that, I fixed it, I did it. I can only understand or imagine how Da Vinci felt when he created the Mona Lisa, the best painting in the world that cannot even be, repainted.
I hear you, man. There's something good about putting in some physical labor where at the end of the day you can step back and look at something and you've seen it transform. You can look at it and say, I transformed that, I built that. And speaking personally, I've had a chance to live in both worlds now, where you're kind of making money from a desk, from a computer.
Yep.
And it's not quite as tangible. And so, yeah, for any of you listening, I know most of us, when you take driver's ed and stuff, you have to learn how to change the tire and stuff like that. But man, learn how to change your oil, like learn how to change the brakes in your car. It's not that difficult to figure out. And if you get a chance, try to learn a trade. Plumbing, painting, construction, carpentry, because there's something really satisfying about that at the end of the day. And there's a certain amount of confidence that comes with it, too, I think.
Yes, I think the confidence thing is a big thing. It's like when we were kids, your parents wanted your room one specific way, and then like when they were gone, you're like, all right, I'm gonna move my bed to the other side of the room, and you're like, oh my god, I have so much more room, I can play basketball or whatever, like that's the type of feeling that I get.
Is that movie Step Brothers where they make their beds into bunk beds,
Yeah.
Like, we have so much more room for activities and stuff.
Yeah, don't crush me, please.
I like it. Okay, so continue your story from you were working with molten lava,
steel.
basically, and then what'd you move on to next?
Well, after pouring, I became the steel chemist, the furnace technician, which meant I ran the furnace, which is a 5,000-pound furnace, and you basically do chemistry. So let's say I can't give any good secrets away, but let's say a carbon-based steel, which is very, very basic. Carbon steel is pretty basic, depending, on your chemistry, but so you got WCB, which is one of your most basic carbon steels. It's really easy to make, but there's certain alloys that need to be in it in range for customer specifications, like 0.2% carbon, 0.3% silicon, 0.6% manganese, and then you have ranges for chrome, nickel, and moly. It's really basic. So say you added your carbon.
When you say basic, I'm already lost.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you know what? I like it though. It's cool because you didn't go to college. You dropped out of high school, but it's like we always talk about on the show. You learn so much by just getting out there and taking action and doing things. And so obviously this is stuff that a lot of people, like, honestly, you're 23, so I mean, really your age. I got a buddy who's about your age who's taking chemistry classes in college right about now, and like he's learning all this theory and basically memorizing it as fast as he can to just regurgitate it onto a test. Whereas I don't know, this was several years ago for you. Now you're spouting this stuff off like it was yesterday.
Oh, man.
And it's because you lived it, you breathed it, probably literally.
Yes.
and so it's just, again, I just pulling out the point that there's so much you can learn from doing, and that there are many different ways to forge your own path. So, but continue.
No, you're definitely right, and I couldn't agree more. Doing it is a lot different than regurgitating it, and you know the ins and out a lot better when you do it. It might, you can speak it, but without putting your hands on it and doing it, it's a lot different. You understand the feel. But so the basic carbon metal or steel, is so you put in your alloys, and then you take a spec. What the spec is, just say like a quarter size 50-cent piece. It's like a little ladle. You take a little cup out of your furnace and you pour it in here, and then you ground it down and make it smooth. And you take this in literally a laboratory, clean filled room, 68 to 69 degrees at all times. And they're called spectrometers, which your friend definitely has most likely worked on or worked with. Oh. And they have these programs in here for all your customer specifications, all your steels. I had to memorize over 250 chemistry levels, ranges, and customer specifications. And this, and I can still probably tell you at least 50 to 100 of them, to this day. Repetitive, but I also loved my job. I cannot get away from that place. I was back there 2 weeks ago, bringing people from the oil and gas industry there to cast parts, like trying to get them to quote the Eagle Alloy, who I worked for, some parts so they can get more money. Just out of the kindness of my heart. Everyone's like, you're going to get money. I'm like, I don't care. This is just something I did. I'm a natural businessman, apparently. So you take your spec and you put it in the spectrometer, which it gives you, it burns a little itty bitty, it arcs into your spec, and it sends argon, which argon is a gas that is heavier than air. It basically kills air or oxygen. Mm-hmm. So it pulls all your gases out of your spec, and then it runs the chemistry levels in your little spec, your little piece of steel, and runs it to this computer. And you'll type in say it's WCB, and it'll give you what exact chemistry you have. If you have 20% chrome, which is stainless steel, it'll tell you, and it'll be red, and it says, nope, try again, basically. And you have to go out there and, to pour it, it has to be at the right temperature, or everything can go wrong. It can be catastrophic. The part will be non-existent. It will be broken. It could be brittle. It could be anything. And I'm in charge of everything that's being poured. If it's not being poured correctly by the pouring crew, who is in the ladles, who's pouring into the molds, which is a sand castle, basically. And I'm in charge of that. So if they're doing that wrong, that's thousands and thousands of dollars just wasted.
Wow.
And then, man,
a lot of pressure.
Now I remember how much I hate responsibility.
Did you ever mess up and cost the company a lot of money?
Actually, yes. I cost them $7,500 once.
Oh boy.
And they were mad. Like, you get written up and stuff, but I think I was more mad at myself. Like, because I'm still very good at that job. I still have friends that work there, and I tell them what to do. Like, if we have coffee or whatever, and I tell them the situation you're in, do it this way. Bet you $100 it works, But I got sent in the office, and we talked about it, and I was just so mad at myself. And they weren't even mad. I was more mad at myself. It's just because I know I can do it, and I know I'm better than that. And it made me better, though. I think failing and making a mistake, it's only a mistake if you do it more than once. If you don't correct yourself, and do better next time, then
learn from it.
Yes, then there might be a little bit of a problem.
So how long did you work in that job, and what came next?
3 years. And so this was during the boom of the oil and gas industry, which apparently I can't get away from. So we made, at Eagle Alloy, we made a lot of valves for the companies that actually work here, or that produce out here and have a lot of their castings out here. So once the boom was happening, we were working at Eagle Alloy 6 days a week I was there for 3.5 years, I think. Yeah, 3.5 years. And it started slowing down. The bust happened. It went from $107 a barrel to $80 in like one day. And then it slowly dropped. So, when you put your business, when you have 45% of your business into one industry, and when that industry collapses, time will tell, you're going to probably go with it.
Yeah, that's the all your eggs in one basket thing again.
Exactly, yeah.
Diversify.
Exactly. Yes. So, and they usually do that, which, I know the guys personally, and they're very, very smart businessmen, and they understood that. And it was the money, it will kill you, because it was great. They were making millions a day, and I understand. But, I mean, they're still going, so that's good. But they put all their eggs into one basket, and that basket almost blew up. They had about one egg left. And so I started coming out. I came out here, so when was this? 2 years ago. My boss, Rich Chase, the foreman at Eagle Alloy, his son worked for the company I work for now. And he asked me years back, would you like to come out here? And I said no, and I wish I would have. And he offered me the job again, and I took it this time. And which is, I don't know how I didn't get laid off, because I'm going in the same industry, like literally just walking out of the door, going to a different place. And I cannot believe I made it through $11 a barrel for oil in the Bakken. Like I was pretty crazy, and thinking about it now, I got really lucky in how stupid it was. If I would have known anything, the things I know now, I probably wouldn't have done it. I probably went in a complete 180.
So now how long have you been at your current job?
2 years, almost 2 years.
Okay. And if you don't have to if you don't want to. I think you mentioned it, to me before we were recording. But if you feel comfortable sharing, the numbers, what you're able to take home every year.
Oh,
We
yeah.
find that's pretty valuable just for people to hear that and know what's possible.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, I went from Ian A and Bob Evans. I think I made 13,000 a year, and now from being 18 years old making 13,000, I make 100 grand like pretty easily, if pretty easily. And this year I definitely will make over that for sure. And that's what sucks is it's not bring home taxes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And my first year out here, I made 70 grand, and I think I paid $15,000 or $16,000 in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wish, what would I have done with that money?
Yep. Government always gets what's theirs, but
yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious. Out of that kind of earning potential, how much of that do you think was directly related to the experience that you'd acquired, your years earlier?
Yeah, a lot, because once I got out of that slump, and the confidence and the ambition. I think ambition is a huge thing. Mm-hmm. If you do not have that drive to succeed, and no matter what you're doing, I don't think you're going to make it. Like, you have to be the guy that sleeps in his truck to make it, to your job. If you don't sleep in your parking lot, to that one job, I don't think you're going to make it. The man who started the company I work for, Delmer Rink, he would go to a job. He bought a backhoe with his last like $800. This was like 1968, and he came home and he told his wife, and his wife slapped him and left him that day. And he went, and then the next week he got his first check. He would. The stories on the streets are, you never know if this is true. He used to siphon diesel fuel away from other companies and stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not advocating stealing by any means, but you do what you got to do to, right, to succeed and survive. Exactly. And that's where I separate myself from a lot of people in this world. Like, I might not know the answer, but I will find it, guaranteed. And I will do the best I possibly can to fix it for you, or do it the right way, or do it the way you want it. I will learn anything that is put in front of me, by doing it and failing a million times, but guaranteed I'll do it right once.
Yeah, I love it, man. Again, just a kind of a different narrative than we get on the show a lot, and it really seems like you're kind of at the beginning of a rags to riches story. Not saying that you were terrible, or not very well off at all when you were younger, but I mean, man, your dad leaving all your clothes out on the porch and stuff like that, and you just having to fend for yourself, running to jobs and stuff like that. It really goes to show that no matter your situation, if you're jobless, if you don't have money, if you don't have a high school degree or a high school diploma or a college degree. Just through you can succeed through grit, determination, and putting in the work. I was listening to there was a great video I shared today on Facebook by Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was talking about all these gurus out there that promise in 90 days, if you follow this formula, you'll be sitting on the beach making money from your computer without even lifting a finger and stuff. And he's just like, that is just not. It's not the case. It takes, and he's a great example of somebody who's just grit and determination, and the guy just worked his ass off to get where he is now, and that's what I see you doing, man.
Yep. I see you doing the same thing. These nothing wrong with white collar work at all. Like, I mean, you've put in both types of work, so and I have a lot of respect for that, and I think you've seen both ends of the path, and I think that's a great way to look at it. And if you can do both, that'd be awesome, but there's just something about just getting your hands dirty that everyone needs to do.
Well, hey, look at you, man. You're doing both. I mean, you're on a podcast right now. It's this is the start of something new for you.
Yeah, this is the most formal thing I've ever done. Obviously, I'm not good at talking or anything, so
So in your intro, you were you mentioned that you were thinking of starting a business. What are you thinking of starting?
Yep. Emission testing, basically the same thing I do now. It's kind of locked now because the company I contract. So I contract for rink construction to Petrol Hunt, and they like me, and they have some job openings, and they offered me a job there, which would be a little bit more money. But it's, how do I explain it? It's way easier. Like, I'd be driving in a truck taking readings all day, and I don't know if I want to be bored all day like that. I just can't do it. I like doing stuff. But as of the business, it would be doing the same exact thing I'm doing now, but in way more depth. Like, I do, other than emission testing, I will go do some maintenance work, like change belts on a pumping unit or dig up a line and oil dump line that's broken, 8 feet in the ground, and patch it. But the business that I was going to start, Petrol Hunt just bought a bunch of new wells. They bought out a company in a couple towns away from me, and I don't want to step on the company I work for's toes at all, because I think that's really shady, and I don't want to take work from them. And I've put out a business plan and showed that I'm cheaper, I can do a lot better job, and they said, okay, let's go with this, or let's put it on the back burner and see what we can do. And then, the next week they basically offer me a job, and it's kind of, I'm in the complacency zone. Like, do I just take this because I know I'm going to be okay, or do I take this really high or really low percentage thing, and that can be really high earning? And that's where I'm at right now. I fight about complacency with a lot of people, saying it's very, very bad to be complacent, and take chances. But this is one of those that I fight with myself about a lot.
Right. A little bit more risk, but greater reward.
Yes.
A little later on.
Yes. And there's greater reward with the job they're offering me too, because like the ambition with a lot of people, or like we were talking about earlier, like some people will become complacent. They're like, well, all right, well, I'll stay at this job my whole life, and I'll just, push buttons, screw it. I make enough money, I don't care. I don't like that. Like, if I mean, personally, like, I try to advance my way of thinking and in my life in every single way I can, experience everything you can. The more knowledge is the best thing you can do. And the more you learn, the more you can do. And you can do anything you want to do.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, we're getting kind of short on time here, Dallas, but I've got a couple more questions for you. And the first one would be, do you have any advice for any of our listeners who are thinking of dropping out of college? And, usually I say are thinking of dropping out of college to be an entrepreneur, and I know you're probably headed that direction eventually, but I'm curious to know what advice you'd have for any of our listeners who are thinking of dropping out and wanting to get into the skilled labor space and eventually end up where you are. Because, honestly, in another life, I'm called to do some certain things, but in another life, I would love to make six figures and work with my hands, all the time. I mean, it just, I love the process. And so maybe there's somebody out there listening who is interested in that too. So what advice would you have for someone like that?
Basically for me, it was a do or die type thing, this wouldn't, looking back on it, it probably wouldn't, if I had a choice, it probably wouldn't have been the choice I made. I would have chose to go to college and played baseball. And I think about it, now, and sometimes I wish I would have, but I wouldn't change this life for anything. Like, I made myself this high, by myself. No one helped me to do anything. And I think for your listeners and stuff, is that ambition and that drive is, you got to succeed, and you got to take what you can get. And there's a lot of people that will just take the high road. They just want 100% all the time. They want $1 million right off the bat. You're not going to get that. You have to take these tiny, tiny ass steps to get there, and you're going to, excuse me for my language, but you're going to pick up shit for someone and put it in a dumpster to get there. If you're not willing to eat that, you're not, I don't think you're good enough to be up there, to be on that mountain. I really don't. I laughed because I've literally done that.
No,
see, I agree. That's, that's,
Yeah.
I think that takes a lot of, it takes a lot of heart to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tempting at, 18, 19, 20 years old to want to go straight from, high school or college into having your Corvette and living this high class lifestyle. But, the reality is that's very rare for most people.
Yep.
And to achieve that quickly. And if you ask the people that have made it how they made it, the number one answer that you're going to get, the number one answer we've typically gotten on the show is just work. You got to put in the work, and sometimes it's going to be shitty work.
Yeah, I mean, I literally could not agree more.
And it just makes you appreciate when you have made it, when you do enjoy a little bit of success, and life may get a little bit easier. It makes you appreciate those things a whole lot more. I was just telling somebody the other day that back in like 2014, there was a point where we almost went bankrupt, and that's a long story, but it was some of the worst months of my life, and in the moment I just wanted to die. But in hindsight, looking back, it's actually some decent memories because I learned so much, I grew so much, and now when things get bad now, it's something that I can refer back to and realize at least it's not as bad as that was. Look how far I've come. There's some perspective there. And that's why you see a lot of kids that are just handed a bunch of stuff typically don't tend to do as well as with the flip side being that they've earned it.
Yeah. No, I mean, earning is a big thing. I mean, if you're not, you got to take what you can get when you can get it.
Yeah, man. Well, Dallas? What's the best way that people can connect with you?
Probably Facebook. I think I don't really get on, but just Google my name or something.
Okay, I'll find your Facebook. We'll put it in the show notes. How's that?
So, I guess some MMA fights might pop up there too. I never mentioned that.
You did some MMA stuff?
Yeah, actually, and jiu-jitsu and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Jack of all trades, man.
Yeah, totally, man. If you got a link to a fight or something like that, we can put that in the show notes too.
Oh dear God.
We've had one other MMA fighter on the show, and it seemed to be a big hit with people. So
yeah, perfect. Yeah, maybe I'll hit 1,000 views.
Awesome. Well, Successful Dropouts, you've been hanging out with Dallas and Kylan, learning what it takes to drop out, grind, and succeed. For everything we talked about today, head over to successfuldropout.com and type Dallas into the search bar, and the show notes will pop right up. And as always, stay hungry, stay foolish. Guys, if you feel like discussing anything we talked about today, or if you have a random question about something else, please get in touch with me. Go to successfuldropout.com, and there's a Talk to Me section right at the top of the page there. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. Some of you know I've emailed back and forth like 20, 30 times over a few months with you guys, and I absolutely love it. I always respond, so please definitely get in touch. Also, it would really help a lot if you went to iTunes and left a 5-star rating and a positive review. It really helps the show out a lot, helps us rank, it helps people. There's just more social proof there. And plus, I just like to hear from you guys and know that you guys like listening to the show. So if you do that, that would be awesome.